ready to race from West Allis, Wisconsin. Thursday, Night Thunder invades the flat 1 mile oval in Milwaukee. TNT ready to go, and this time I've got a friend in the booth talking about Cody Pennell, ready to watch these race cars go green. Cody, Belleville, and Norman on the front row for round 11.
Yeah, the usual suspects up front, Rick. This is going to be a good one. Some classic short track racing.
Aiden Norman now leading into turn number 3 with rookie Noah Belleville. Behind him, Dustin Painter sitting in third. Cody, it goes Dodge, Ford, Toyota, your top 3 after lap number 1.
Yeah, I think, we're all aware of how fast the 62 and the 41 are going to be. That's going to be the race to watch tonight. Those guys are going to duke it out and put on a show for us.
So far, so good. All clean and green through the first few laps. Seth Wansing now in the 3rd position, while one of the Bluegrass Bandits, Cody Riggs, opens up the door for the Goodwrench Chevrolet of Briley Wright down the inside. Cody, we went from a 1 mile oval last week at Dover to a 1 mile oval here in Milwaukee, but they're 2 completely different racetracks. They might as well be a road course versus a little bull ring. What's the difference here as we see Noah Belleville going for first?
Yeah, absolutely. Dover is more of what I would call a rhythm track. You kind of get established there and you just kind of zone out and just start clicking off laps, whereas here at Milwaukee it's more of a technical track. You're really driving the track. You're trying to keep the car up under you, trying to throttle it up easy off the corners. So I think that this track is probably going to be a little bit more of an exciting watch.
Already you've got Aiden Norman following Noah Belleville, but you see he puts 2 tires coming out of turn number 2. You're going to see Aiden Norman, you're going to see Noah Belleville putting 2 tires up on the left-hand side of the racetrack coming out of turn 2. You say you got to throttle it up off the corners. Do you mean the corners are so flat that you're almost turning the car with the throttle rather than the steering wheel?
Yeah, that's exactly it, Rick. Whereas at Dover, you've got a ton of banking. You can really kind of lean the car into the track and count on that to help it stick. Whereas here, with very little banking, you have to rely on your brakes, getting the car slowed down, and kind of tiptoeing through the corner to keep the car up under you.
Cody Riggs needs a good bit of luck, Cody. Riggs has coming out of that 4th corner just ahead of JK3. Jimmy Kerr III wants to get into the top 5. Coming into this race, we know Cody's not, historically speaking, the most consistent driver, but here he sits 9th in the Swag Designs point standings. 10 markers behind Briley Wright, and he only finds himself 43 points out of the top 5. This has been one of the best seasons for Riggs, but coming at Milwaukee, what's going to be the key to consistency for someone like Cody to get a top 5 finish?
He's going to have to keep the car up under him a little better than he did just then off of turn 4, but, really impressive run for him so far in the top 5. And I would say Bandit Racing, or the Bluegrass Bandit Racing as a whole right now is probably the hottest team in ARCS. Everybody over there is firing on all cylinders, so good to see Riggs, following suit.
Well, talking about the Bluegrass Bandits, they were on fire in Season 4 of TNT. They were just dominant. Talking about Toby Estes, one of those guys that he picked up 4 wins in his rookie season, just numbers that are absolutely unheard of. And the year after, we just saw a decline from Toby, from Briley, from so many drivers. What's the difference between Season 5 and now Season 6, where we see drivers like Briley Wright, who's got a win at Daytona, Toby Estes, who won at Rockingham? What happened?
I think, honestly, Rick, they just hit their stride. We've got races almost every day in ARCS, and so those guys are on there, and the more they run, the better they get. I mean, practice makes perfect for anything, and, iRacing especially. So the more that they're on here turning laps, the better they get every week.
there was one driver in Season 4 of Thursday Night Thunder that managed to pick up 3 wins in that same rookie season. Between he and Toby Estes, they shared 7 wins in 9 starts, Cody. Any idea who that driver might be?
Yeah, I think I got a little idea. No, I had a blast running TNT. These cars are fun, and the races are always so clean, and everybody, there's just a little bit more respect out there, and it makes it a lot of fun to run with these guys, and the racing was always so fun. It makes me kind of miss it, honestly.
One driver who's really missing the top 3, Dustin Painter, he went out from 3rd down to 19th position. What's the game here? Because we know Painter doesn't just sink like a stone, but it seems like he and Briley Wright have both dropped to the back. This has to be strategy. What's the benefit for them?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one, Rick. With the way that these races run green, it really blows the door wide open for strategy. Oh, and I just went back and watched the replay. It looks like Painter actually got a little loose off of turn 2. I think it was on lap 2, and he smacked the outside wall hard. So I'm imagining that he came down, got that fast repair, and that's why he's back out there a lap down now.
Yeah, there you can see Dustin Painter just on the high side. He got stuck on the outside, probably just bent the toe. Oh, wow, he really bent the toe into that car hard. And it looks like he's now 1 lap off the pace, if I'm reading these numbers right. So John Honeybrink, who's going to round out that top 20, looks like a DNS, may not have started, and Dustin Painter 1 lap off the pace. But the good news for Painter is that he's the lucky dog. 41 of Noah Belleville leading this race by 1.3 seconds. He's gotten off to a blistering start. And then the defending champion, Aiden Norman, in the big-ass 62, sitting in second, while Seth Wansing is 0.8 off of him. Cody, we're looking at tire strategy here. I know we're only 14 laps into this, but Noah Belleville already 1.5 seconds ahead. Knowing that these drivers have 3 tire changes, what's the strategy going to look like in this 180 lapper?
That really depends on if there's any cautions. If we go green here, I imagine we'll try to split it into 3 or 4 even stints. Noah will go as long as he possibly can. And speaking of Noah, I mean, you can't say enough about the kid. I'm sure everybody watching knows, but I mean, he runs on a controller, and it's hard enough to drive these cars with a steering wheel and pedal. So for him to come out and do what he does every week, it's just really impressive.
It shows. Last season, he ended up getting the win at Sonoma. I don't know how many races he's run this year, but I don't know if he's got a... No, he doesn't yet have a win this season, but he really does a fantastic job with everything that he gets into. So it's really, really impressive to see what he can do, not only on a controller, given that these cars take so much finesse to run. It's really, really impressive. Cody, I'm looking at these point standings, and I think this is very well Noah Belleville's first Thursday Night Thunder start. So I guess we'll see what the kid can do in his first start of Season 6.
Yeah, I had a really good race with Noah last season at Bristol. I mean, we were nose to tail for several laps. I think your good buddy Atlanta Racing called that one. Some classic moments from the broadcast from that race for sure. And not only is he good, he's clean. He's not going to run you dirty. He gives room. Just a all-around class act as a driver.
That kid in third, Seth Wansing, has 2 TNT championships to his name. He's got the win at Iowa this season. He's now stuck behind Dustin Painter, while Briley Wright in the 2.9 gets behind him. You got a guy up in your mirror, Cody, and obviously the pressure is there. So for a kid like Seth, he's got a couple wins this season. Briley has a win this season as well. We got, what, 6? Yeah, this is 6 races to go. And after this one, we'll have 5 races to go. Those Swag Design point standings, Seth Wansing tied with Dustin Painter for 5th in the standings right now, Briley in 8th. The championship's starting to look out of reach for these guys, but at this point in the season, is there, or not is there, but what's the motivation to chase down somebody that's 3 positions ahead of you?
Oh, I mean, there's always, as a racer, there's always motivation. One spot better in the point standings is enough. So all these guys, despite whoever's leading and how far ahead they are, I know every week they're going to put their head down. And in racing, it almost comes down to it's different from any other sport. Each individual win almost means more than a championship. So, every week these guys are coming out to win, and some of them have already foregone the championship, and they're just coming out to compete.
I mean, it's the thrill of competition. It's just beating the guy next to you. You can't get away from that. Two-time champion Tom Sears is trying to make sure that JK3 can't get away from him. You're watching the battle for the 7th position. Further on back, Jason Alexander and Matthew Kent sparring for a spot in the top 14. Swag Designs sponsoring the points today, and Jason Alexander slow off of turn number 2. We'll talk about Swag Designs in a moment, Cody. I think he might have ended up catching the wall out of the corner.
He did, Rick, and these cars, it's hard to tell, when you're watching a broadcast, but that right rear sticks out a little bit more than the right front because of the way the cars are skewed. So when that right rear grabs and pulls the right front into it, it is almost impossible to pull yourself off the wall. You have to come to an almost stop to get off of it. So really costly to hit the wall here, especially on the straightaway.
Alexander 3 seconds ahead of your cousin and Milwaukee native Ryan Pinnell, a big fan of the Brewers, representing in the Hooters 12 Ford. Ryan, the Milwaukee native, just sitting outside of 3 seconds, catching up to Jason Alexander, while further up, Donald Ray and Matthew Kent drag race for position.
Yep, I always have to give my cousin a shout out when I can. Seeing this race here at Milwaukee brings back some childhood memories of us hanging out under the bleachers in turn 2. So, good times.
Always something about magic childhood memories going to a race, and and even now, just the simplicity of sitting on a cold metal bleacher with the lights going down behind you, and the smell of cigarettes and oil and burnt rubber in the air, with a faint smell of cheap hot dogs and the taste of a watered-down Slurpee in your mouth. There's just something about a Friday, a Saturday night, hell, even a Wednesday night. You go out to the local short track, and you can taste the atmosphere of a grassroots race.
Yeah, absolutely, Rick. There's nothing like, I always tell people, just in general, motorsports fans, that a NASCAR race is an experience. Once you've been there and seen a race in person, it will change how you look at the sport. And don't look now, but I think Aiden might be closing the gap a little bit to Noah Belleville here.
1 second now, the gap between them. Noah Belleville, Aiden Norman, 1.2 and counting. The defending champion in his big-ass Dodge catching up to the Aflac Ford in that 41. That Fusion leads that Charger by now 1.2 seconds. If we take a look at the gap over the last 5 laps, the numbers will tell you Aiden Norman on that 24th lap of competition catching up to Noah Belleville, but that time around Belleville 1/10 quicker, and Briley Wright almost 1/10 quicker than Aiden Norman.
Yeah, and you wonder, Rick, are these guys saving any tires this early in the race? Are they trying to see how far they can stretch those tires? Sometimes these races come down to a tire strategy as opposed to fuel strategy. You won't go to the end of the fuel run just because you're giving up that much time on the tires.
3 tire changes maximum for these drivers. 182 miles, the scheduled distance to this race, but of course 3 green-white checkered attempts, as is TNT tradition. They've been racing here for 120 years. Cody, this will be the 120th year of the Milwaukee Mile. According to the internet, it is the oldest motor speedway in the world.
Yeah, that's impressive. I always thought that title belonged to Indianapolis, but to know that a short track like this holds the title, that's pretty neat.
And would you call it a short track? I know by definition growing up for me, the definition was, a track that's 1 mile or shorter. But given how this track races, given, that it does race like a short track. I mean, you look at those tight corners, and it's not a tight racetrack. It's not narrow by any means, but it really is one groove out here.
Yeah, and there goes Briley right on Seth Wansing. I would say that probably the flat banking is what contributes to it being more of a short track style of racing as opposed to like Dover where you have a lot of banking. That races more like a mile and a half almost. So, a lot of the flat banking, I think that really sets it apart.
Wansing now on right by 0.2 of a second further on back. JK3 on the inside of CR3. Cody Riggs in the Good Wrench Monte Carlo giving way to the Holler Boys Chevrolet of Jimmy Kerr. Seth Wansing's not out of the woods, though. He and Briley Wright trading positions. Cody, you just mentioned that these guys have to save those tires. We'll see how far they go. I mean, last week at Dover, Aiden Norman got the win simply by managing the tire strategy. He pushed his tires, I think, 60-some laps every stint, and as it ended up, he needed to pit one time fewer than the rest of his rivals. Now, given the driver of the big-ass 62 is incredibly quick, that helps too, but ultimately, the tire strategy sealed the victory. I know it's a different track, but we're talking about another 1 mile oval. We're talking about where these guys have to save their tires. Is it going to be the same strategy that wins this race?
I believe so. And, unfortunately for the rest of the field, Aiden Norman's strategy isn't always one size fits all because, like you said, he's usually setting a blistering pace. It's not enough to just do the strategy and be setting, mediocre lap times or slower lap times in the leader. You have to also be turning laps like he does. So it's an art, really, to balance strategy and pace.
There's the gap over the last 5 laps. Belleville no longer consistently quicker than Norman. That last time, Noah Belleville faster by a 10th. Norman with a bit of a wiggle out of turn number 2. And if you look at the clock, it says 32 laps into this race. And again, maybe that could be a product of Aiden just putting his foot down. But again, he's hanging the tail out of turn number 4. And that's got to give you a telltale sign that about 30 laps is what you're going to get on just premium grip.
Yeah, and if he keeps hanging that tail end out there like that, lap after lap, those rear tires are going to be gone. And, I think that Noah may be on cruise control here. He's watching that gap, and he's maintaining it. He's just pushing as hard as he has to. And that's one of the advantages you get from the lead is exactly how hard you have to push to stay there and be in that clean air while not really using up your tires as much as the guy behind you is.
You're looking at Tom Sears getting around Cody Riggs. That was the move for the 7th position. Toby Estes further up ahead in that not Dover winning. Where did he win? Rockingham. In that Rockingham winning number 8. Sits in the 5th position right now. He's up 5 places from where he started. Both he and Donald Ray are the race's hardest chargers. Jacket Ray making this look like Indianapolis, Cody. You see him snake up to block Jason Alexander. This is the battle for 14th.
Yeah, I did, Rick. And going back to, Toby Estes, if what I'm looking at is correct, he didn't even turn a single lap of practice. He qualified 10th and is already up to 5th. So that just goes to show what kind of pace is in that 8 car, and I believe we'll see a lot more of him later in the race as pit cycles kind of go through.
Just something happened in Season 5. Maybe there wasn't enough practice going on for him. Maybe he just, I don't know, call it a sophomore slump. But here he is, Season 3 of Thursday Night Thunder for Toby, consistently running in the top 5. And the first 9 races of the season may not have been that lucrative for Toby, but you look at those swag design points, and I mean, the ball don't lie. Toby Estes is sitting 16th. Now, granted, he runs a part-time schedule, but he's got a win. He has an average finish of 10th place. The numbers will tell you expect him to sit in the top 10, but top 5, I mean, again, look at the numbers. He's doing twice as good as his average finish.
Yeah, and that's the thing about this points format that TNT runs. You know, I mean, it's not like a lot of people will say that the new NASCAR point style is kind of gimmicky. You know, here it's, are you showing up every week? Are you finishing consistently? And you know, that's how you be successful in this style of championship.
Jeff No trying to be successful in that double five on the inside of the Steve Park 1. Being piloted by Kevin Feemster, who's going to hang the tail out, and he's going to save it out of turn number 2. And that's a pretty nostalgic look. I really appreciate Kevin's number 1. And you got to give it up to Jeff No, because the plain white car with just the day-glow numbers on the side, this thing looks like a late model you'd see at your short track, man.
Absolutely.
It's no secret, man. Everybody knows I really just appreciate the nostalgia of TNT. As you're looking at Tom Sears get around Cody Riggs, that's for the 7th position. 1/3 of those Bluegrass Bandits in that 3 car, now down 2 places from where he started. No one's come down for a pit yet, Cody, but we're looking at 40 laps into this race, and you're starting to see some drivers that are having less success, as Aiden Norman has had an incident down 6, 7 places. Something's gone wrong for the big-ass 62.
Yeah, and that's kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with him hanging the rear end out on every corner exit. I mean, the more you wear those tires, the more that they are not forgiving. You put the throttle down just a little too early coming off corner, and it will snap loose on you in a heartbeat.
There it is. There it is. I mean, he went way too hard into X Games mode. Now, luckily, he kept it off the wall, but the native of Dobson just lost control. Let's ride on board Aiden Norman and have a listen. Dr. Cody, your diagnosis.
There's a little bit of a transition there in turn 4 where it goes from the asphalt to the, whatever that black strip is there. And it looks like he may have gotten onto that maybe the same time he was accelerating up, and it just upset the car. And I'll tell you what, he did a hell of a job to keep that thing off the wall and not make that a lot worse than it already was.
No, he did a fantastic job. Are you kidding me? I mean, there's a reason why he is the defending champion, and there's a reason why he's the first to 4 wins this season. He's going to give it the full send on Virginia's Tommy Withers for the 8th position. Withers going to give it the hardest fight that he can, but Norman just has the line, and right there, Cody, that just goes to show how important it is to have the right line in the corner. This is one line on the racetrack. So, I mean, if your trajectory is off, there goes not only the entrance, but the exit, and then all the speed down the straight. I think consistency, whether you're quick, whether you're slow, consistency is going to be not only key, but definitely the winning move of this race.
Yeah, and, Aiden Norman coming off a 4, spins out, locks it up, sits on the straight for a second, has to back up, gets back going, and he's only fallen to 8. So that tells you, what kind of pace he and Noah Belleville were setting early on. I mean, Noah's got a 6-second lead over Briley right now. So, yeah, no, it's going to be tough for the other drivers to keep up with these boys tonight.
On board the 3 of Greensboro, Kentucky's Cody Riggs. Shout out to everybody over there at Smokey's Bar that might be watching along. This is the battle for 4th position. Into that first corner. Aiden Norman now half a second off of Cody Riggs while the cars are starting to bunch up behind him. Noah Belleville has a 6-second gap to Briley Wright in second.
Yeah, I think the longer it goes, the more he's going to stretch that out. Noah is a master at tire saving. I've seen it before running with him. It's just where everybody else burns a little bit more tire, he just finds a way to save that little extra for later in the run.
Drag race down the front straight for that 6th position. Aiden Norman makes light work of Cody Riggs. Thomas Andrews in the number 2, following Thomas Sears in the number 14. 3 TNT championships between these drivers as Jeff No creeps in the distance, starts to hunt down Thomas Andrews for that 10th position. Cody, we're going to go on board with Jeff No here, and just we're going to see how wide this track is, but just how important it is to get the right line.
Yeah, Yeah, Jeff No, he's another one. I kind of consider him a sleeper of TNT. You know, usually he qualifies towards the back, runs towards the back for about the first half of the race, but like magic, every week at the end of the race when it really matters, there's that 55 running up front.
Smooth through 3 and 4. I mean, you can see just how steady the hands have to be, but if you listen...
Oh, and there's a wreck on the front straightaway. Is that
Jeff
Norman
No's going to make his way through. It's Aiden Norman who's gone again, and the defending champion now has to atone for his sins out of the 4th corner, and he will atone and do penance by coming down pit road to fix the damage on the right front of that big-ass 62 Dodge. And he's going to need a big-ass fan to cool him down as he goes down the back straight. Cody, this is the 2nd crash now for Aiden Norman, except this time the boy hit something. Let's see what happened.
Yeah, he just wasn't as fortunate that time. He kind of tried to overcorrect it back to the right like he did last time, but instead of sliding the nose towards the inside wall, it gripped up and just snapped right towards the outside wall, where he made heavy contact with the right front. And he's continuing to run, so we'll see what kind of detriment, you know, the damage is to his pace as he taps the wall again off of turn 2.
And having a listen that time, it looks like he didn't try to correct it with the throttle, but the car just went around on him, and this is not
he's in the wall again, Rick. He is heavy contact on that right side. I think he's going to have to come down pit road now.
Mistake after mistake for the defending champion. Aiden Norman comes into this 11th TNT round 46 points ahead of Tom Sears, running in that top 10. And this is where he could start to lose his grip. You could see he had one hand on the trophy coming into round 11 and trying to be the only back-to-back champion in Thursday Night Thunder, but now trouble, despair, and a dark omen under the cloudy skies of Milwaukee as the defending Thursday Night Thunder champion goes around for a 3rd time. Norman collides against the tires in the back straight, comes down to an undignified halt, spinning the white wall General tires down the back straight in West Allis, and his story gets darker as he goes down the rabbit hole of damage. Aiden Norman in the 62 watches his championship slip like sand through his Thursday Night Thunder hands. The native of Dobson, North Carolina, tempts fate once more, Cody. The clouds get darker, closer, and it could be raining on his championship parade.
Yeah, and he's continuing to stay out here, Rick. I'm not sure this is the best decision on his part. Maybe he feels like he'll lose too much time coming down pit road to get that fast repair, but I mean, I know that car's got to be a handful. And going back to what we talked about earlier, this is why the other guys show up, right? I mean, at the end of the day, Aiden Norman, yeah, very fast driver, but we're all human. We're prone to make mistakes, errors, and you're seeing it here tonight. Unfortunately for Aiden, it's multiplying time after time again.
Aiden Norman in the 6-2 goes around for a 3rd time. Let's ride on board with the Season 5 champion as he goes off turn number 2. And Cody, this is so uncharacteristic of Aiden. You wouldn't expect him to make these mistakes. What's going on in that 62 car?
Well, I mean, it's really easy. You know, the first one, obviously, you know, I was listening to some of the drivers talk about the race before we got started tonight. It's just really touchy on corner exit, and once you do it one time, he's still on edge. Or once you do it one time, you know, you tend to get a little worked up. It probably, you know, made him a little angry, and it compounds. It keeps going. You do it again, you get a little bit more mad, and then before you know it, you've wrecked 3 times.
Championship implications in the 6-2 camp. Jimmy Kerr now coming up behind Aiden Norman, who is, I think, 1 lap off the pace. Yeah, he's closer to 2 laps than he is to 1 lap off the pace. Toby Estes ahead of him by 1 second. The Rockingham winner sitting in 16th, 4 seconds behind cousin Ryan, who's on the cusp of the top 15. Dustin Painter still trying to make his way through the field, but it's been consistent for the North Carolinian in the white Camry. He came across the wall there, and Withers is in. Tommy Withers is in, Cody, as I'm rambling on around about Dustin Painter going around. But this is it, and this is one of the weirdest pit lane entrances I've ever seen.
Yeah, and we're at about lap 60, so that sets them up. You know, they'll pit at lap 60, they'll run again to lap 120, and then they'll try to run again to the end and have an extra set of tires for a late race caution maybe. You know, that's probably most everybody's strategy right now. And while we were watching Aiden Norman, the gap from Noah Belleville to Briley Wright is now down to 4 seconds. So I'm not sure if Noah Belleville made a mistake or Briley Wright and Seth Wanson have just really turned the heat on here.
The race facts brought to you by Drip Diecast and Collectibles as we look at the last 5 seconds of lap time history between Noah Belleville and Briley Wright. Fans at home, if you're watching, you love some of these paint schemes and you want to collect some of that NASCAR history for yourself, Drip Diecasts and Collectibles on Facebook, your only place to go for NASCAR memorabilia. You can get cars like the 2.9 of Briley Wright. You might see something like the 8 of Toby Estes. And who knows, you might even just see something like Cody Riggs out there as well. Some of those famous diecasts that you know and love on Drip Diecasts and Collectibles on Facebook. Don't miss out on your chance to get that sweet NASCAR memorabilia. Cody Riggs and Tom Sears separated by a couple of tenths. And now, Cody, it seems like guys are starting to be closer to each other than ever.
Yeah, and the pressure's on for Tom Sears now, right? I mean, his championship rival is, there goes Noah Belleville down pit road. And Rick, I was following him. I was from the front of his car. He's got some pretty heavy damage on that right front, so I don't think that Briley Wright was running him down on his own accord. I think the 41 had some trouble. So trouble for both the leaders tonight. That just goes to show, you know, no matter how the race is going, who pulls out, just stick with it and stay in it. And, you know, you never know what can happen at the front as Noah Belleville takes his one fast repair.
New leader for the first time in forever. Briley Wright now on the point. Car 2.9 comes out of turn number 4 with the lead. He will not give that up, but now Seth Wansing has a chance to turn the screw. The golden-rimmed number 9 comes up to the back end of Briley Wright. 9 on 2.9, getting right under that back end, trying to get a smell of what is good at the front. Briley Wright in the good wrench 29, trying to stay shut off and away from Seth Wansing, who puts 2 tires in the grass, Cody, and it could be impatience from the young Kansas City native. Briley Wright is in. Seth Wansing, new leader.
Yeah, you know, I've got to brag on anybody from Sideswipe any chance I get. So Seth, you know, he has really, since we started doing this iRacing thing, he has been one of the ones that I think has improved the most. He's went from, you know, a midfield runner to being consistently at the front every week. So I think he may be coming down pit road this next time, Rick. Will be interesting to see who cycles out in first after this is all said and done.
The KC Masterpiece bringing that Midwest Barbecue number 9 into the pits. JK3 now next in line to ascend to the throne. The number 7-5 Chevrolet trying to chase down Seth Wansing. Aiden Norman pitted on lap 60. He finds himself in 18th as he gets around Jimmy Kerr. He will also be coming in, and Thomas Andrews, notorious for running the car to absolute fumes and nothing else, now your new leader. This is his kind of race, Cody.
Yeah, absolutely. And it would be one thing if that strategy never worked for him, right? But it does. I mean, there are times when it looks like he doesn't have, you know, the fastest car, but through strategy, he always seems to find himself at the front at the end of his races.
There has never been a Thursday Night Thunder champion who has won as few races as Thomas Andrews. And the race leader right now at Milwaukee won the Season 4 championship by winning one and only one race, the season opener at Rockingham. Andrews hasn't pitted since the beginning, so he's gone 65 laps on this set of tires. Jeff Noe will now get around him as Thomas Andrews slows down. He's ready to come through. The North Carolinian now assumes top spot at Milwaukee. He will stay out and lead this lap. Noah Belleville now ready to get back in front.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if the 55 is pitted already or not, Rick, but there's still some pace in that car after 65 laps, so he's going to be one to watch at the end of this race. I'm telling you, the guys that can get the most out of these tires on a long run, they're going to be the ones that will benefit. And I am really surprised that Noah Belleville, he, even though he had some contact with the wall and had to come down pit road early, he has cycled back to the front. So, again, that just shows you what kind of pace is in that 41 car.
Caution free so far as Jeff Noe leads the lap, but he relinquishes top spot, and that puts the young Belleville back in front. Aflac Ford Fusion now the new leader on lap 67. Last time around, Noah Belleville 31.12 seconds. Last time around for Briley Wright, 31.30. 2 laps of difference on those tires, but Cody, we've seen what Noah Belleville can do. He was putting a stupid time up on that board, just blisteringly quick. He did it in practice, he's done it in qualifying, and now his best lap, 30.40 seconds. He's running lap times that are within 0.3 to that. This boy's on another level.
Yeah, it's incredible what he can do. And I don't know if you remember or not, Rick, but when they came down pit road, Briley was only 3.5 seconds behind Noah Belleville. And now what I'm looking at says that he is 10.1 seconds behind. So, I mean, he put 6.5 seconds on him on those fresh tires.
Darrell Waltrip will tell you that Michael Schumacher was an absolute genius at pit stops, maximizing his in-lap and his out-lap while mastering the attack on pit road. And as Noah Belleville careens into turn number 3, you can really see the skew on that race car.
We got trouble with Tom Sears, Rick. He's around off turn 2 and into the inside wall.
The 2-time champion goes around. Tom Sears now having to coax life back into the engine on that race car to get back up to racing speed. Let's see what happened to the Southampton, Massachusetts driver. And it's the same story every single time. You can see he locked it up. He almost saved it, but it just wasn't enough. Have another look.
There is nothing more aggravating as a driver when you know you're running second in points. The points leader has a bad night. You've got an opportunity to make up some ground on him, and then you make a mistake. There is nothing more frustrating, and I know that Tom Sears will probably be beating himself up for the rest of the race.
Running in 12th right now, looking at those swag design points. Sears comes into this race with a big gap to Aiden Norman, but still extremely possible, given tonight's circumstances, that Sears can claim those 46 points back in the next 6 races as Cody Riggs goes around, and the Bluegrass Bandit now has the same sort of trouble that Tom Sears had. Fans at home, Swag Designs, Jim Blankenship, and all the folks involved are expert handcrafters at making memorabilia for you, and we mean handcrafted trophies, including the Season 6 trophy for Thursday Night Thunder. Check them out on Twitter at Swag Designs. That's Swag Designs with a Z. Let me pop this in the... Well, actually, it doesn't really matter if I capitalize a Z, I don't think. But anyway, at Swag Designs in the chat. Check them out on Twitter. Tell them TNT sent you, and get your own handcrafted race memorabilia for you and any event. Noah Belleville now 9.75 seconds ahead. Thomas Andrews just went green, Cody. Tristan Catania in the 48 also went green.
Yeah, Tristan Catania running in, looks like he's running 16th right now, about 2 laps down. You know, a lot of these guys that don't get to practice a lot during the week, they kind of start to find their rhythm about this point in the race. So not surprising there to see he's turning a personal best.
And the 48 now 25 seconds behind Donald Ray. They are on the same lap, albeit 2 laps off the race pace. The native from Rockwall, Texas, running behind Matthew Kent, who's currently in 7th. The left-handed pitcher for the Fubon Guardians of Taiwan. I didn't just make that up. As much as I lie, I'm not kidding. The left-handed pitcher for the Fubon Guardians, Matt Kent, in that 7th position. Matt racing all the way from Taiwan. And from Taiwan to Milwaukee, I don't care what the distance is. You can't deny talent as Kent gets loose out of turn number 2. And the curse of the commentator now puts the American left-handed pitcher in a little bit of danger. Kevin Feemster gets around that number 1. Feem now in 7th.
Yeah, and don't look now, Rick, but just to kind of re-emphasize what kind of pace Noah Belleville is setting, he is right there behind Tommy Withers, ready to put him a lap down, and that will leave only 5 cars on the lead lap, and we're not even halfway through the race yet.
That's unbelievable. That's just sensational. Matt Kent gets around Kevin Feemster and gets his 7th position back. Toby Estes up 6 places, currently the race's hardest charger. Noah Belleville 9.7 seconds ahead of Briley Wright, and it looks like he's sort of in cruise control. Looking at those lap times, Briley Wright last time, though, 0.3 quicker than Noah Belleville. However, he is human. We've seen him make a mistake, and I wouldn't say he was in control at the end of that last pit stop cycle. This time, however, he has a much wider gap for a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been in the situation myself. I've been leading a TNT race, looking like everything was going to go well, and the servers will crash, or anything can happen. That's why it's important for like Briley, Seth, Toby, for none of them to get complacent and just kind of settle in. They want to stay chasing after Noah, because if anything happens, they need to be right there to capitalize on it.
Elridge George recently went green. The native of Nassau in the Bahamas has Tom Sears coming up behind him, but they're on different laps. Sears finds himself 1 lap off the pace in 11th. Dustin Painter 3 seconds ahead of him, while Thomas Andrews watches someone come. Oh, it's Donald Ray coming into the pits, and the native of Rockwall, Texas, coming down to a dignified stop. We'll see how his race moves on. Noah Belleville now looking to put Tommy Withers down, and as you said, Cody, this is going to leave 5 cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, just an insane pace being set by the 41 right now. You can't say enough about the kid. I mean, is there anybody tonight that can compete with him? That's yet to be seen. But like I said, anything can happen, so we'll be watching this one right down to the very last lap.
Further on back, more drama. Dustin Painter, Thomas Andrews, 0.3 apart. The North Carolinian comes up behind. The Weehawken, New Jersey pilot, the Season 4 champion, watches Kevin Feemster 1 second ahead in the distance. Dustin Painter trying to hold off Seth Wansing, who's running in 3rd.
And as fast as a pace as Noah Belleville is setting, Briley Wright he's not really putting a lot of time on him. I mean, he's at 9.7 seconds right now, but I mean, after the pit cycle had finished, they were 10 seconds apart. So, Briley's setting either almost identical or just a little bit better lap times than Noah Belleville right now. So a caution could change everything for Briley Wright.
9 seconds the gap. Briley 2 seconds ahead of Seth Wansing. As they go into turn number 1, Thomas Andrews on the inside of Kevin Feemster. The Miller car goes up against the Pennzoil Chevrolet. Feemster opens the door for Dustin Painter, but will the North Carolinian walk through? It goes 1-9-0. Feemster running in 9th. Seth Wansing dives to the inside, and Dustin Painter will give it a full send under the shadow of the rear spoiler of Seth Wansing. Now Painter looking to get to the inside and chase down Thomas Andrews.
Yeah, just looking over at the chat log, we've had several disconnections. I'm not sure what's happened, but Jonathan Hohenbrink, Jeff No, Jason Alexander, and Donald Ray have all disconnected from the race. So a lot of early retirees from this one.
Well, given some of the age of those guys, I would say that they're early retirees as well, but I knew what you meant. Dustin Painter running away from Kevin Feemster, but not by a lot. The number 1 Pennzoil Chevy Looking to the inside of the Napa Camry, you can see Feimster has a big scuff on the right-hand side of that car. Toby Estes running in fourth, another one of those DEI painted machines, coming up behind the 3 of Cody Riggs, not for position as Cody is running in lucky 13th. Feimster and Painter still going at it. Let's ride on board with Kevin Feimster. Cody, surely this has to be the patience game now at this point.
Yeah, and riding on board with him, I mean, he is very, very loose under braking. And when you're following that closely behind somebody and your car is not exactly planted when you're braking, you have to be extremely careful. You know, you don't want to hop the tires and get in too hot and run into that guy in front of you. But yeah, these guys right now, they just need to get settled in, try and save as much tire as they can, try to make this fuel run go as long as they possibly can, and hope for a caution.
That's what Briley Wright is hoping for. That yellow flag is pretty much all that can save him at this point. 10 seconds on the nose for the third of those 3 Bluegrass Bandits in tonight's race. 1.7 seconds ahead of Seth Wansing, the young Kansas City native. Trying to stay ahead of Toby Estes and doing so by 11 and a quarter seconds. It's some of the gaps that these drivers are putting on is pretty amazing, but for this top 3 to be 11 seconds removed from the pack is pretty impressive. But this is a trend that we've seen, Cody. After the first cycle of green flag pit stops, we're going to see drivers just kind of get in a world of their own. They separate themselves by quite a big distance. So in this second stint, you don't see a lot of battles, but you do see a lot of guys like patient, almost like just waiting for the next green flag pit cycle.
Yeah, and that's how these races go, right? I mean, as many TNT races as I have run, most of them go green with only, a caution or 2 here every other race. And due to that, the nature of a green flag race, the cars get naturally spread out. Everybody's kind of just driving the track, and I think that's why these races are so clean.
Matt Kent in the 31 finds himself 9/10 of a second ahead of Thomas Andrews over the last 5 laps. The New Jersey native starting to catch up, except last time around Kent was 0.2 of a second quicker. And Kent's trying to reel in Tommy Withers as well. Now, they're separated by 7 seconds here. But really, Cody, as green flag pit stops are about to begin again. Actually, no, they're not. I'm crazy. I can't do math. We're about 30 laps away from green flag pit stops. I completely lost my train of thought.
Well, I'll tell you, James Kerr is wishing that green flag pit stops are starting right now because, now he's got a miracle of Noah Belleville about to put him a lap down, and we'll have 4 cars on the lead lap.
Noah Belleville trying to just obliterate the field. I mean, Ned Jarrett style. Trying to put everybody's hopes that come out, because realistically, every car that he puts down puts a lap down is just one less driver he has to deal with in case of a restart, in case of a late race caution, because there's only so many lucky dogs that they're going to give out. It's going to be one. Dustin Painter up behind Thomas Andrews while Kevin Feimster fills the gap between them. We're talking about drivers being spread out, but you're looking at 8th through 10th, separated by no more than a second.
Yeah, the midfield battle is great right now. And that goes back to kind of what I was saying earlier. These guys are in a race of their own. They could care less who's in the lead right now. They're driving as hard as they can for 6th, 7th, 8th, whatever it might be, because every position you can gain, I won't listen to any driver tell me that they don't care about gaining every position they can, because everybody's out here to compete. And I'll tell you, Rick, if you think back, I believe it was last season at Dover, probably one of the most boring races you've called, because you told me so yourself. Dover, I think I put everyone a lap down, and Noah Belleville is definitely setting the pace tonight to do that.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything, but yes, was it season 5? It was. Yeah, you're the defending Dover winner. Cody Pennell puts the whole field a lap down and gave nobody a chance to win that race. But when you're hot, and you can only beat the competition that's put in front of you. So, I mean, that says a lot about Noah Belleville beating this incredibly seasoned competition in front of him, because this is his first race this season, but Noah Belleville races often with a lot of these guys. Not only a lot of the Thursday Night Thunder crew, but the extension of the Alliance Racing Championship Series. They know his style. They know he's fast, but they haven't found a way to beat him.
Yeah, he hasn't skipped a beat. And I have raced in multiple leagues, and I would say that out of all of them, the competition level in ARCS is probably one of the highest. So it's no cakewalk to go out there and do what he's doing, even though he makes it look like that. It's just really an incredible display of just pure pace.
Off that second corner, about to put JK3 a lap down. Defending champion Aiden Norman now coming up behind double champion Tom Sears. This is for 11th. Last time around, Norman half a second quicker than Tom Sears, and Tom Sears is just going to give him the line.
Yeah, and it looks like he's still toting that damage. Tom Sears on that left front from where he lost it off turn 2 earlier. So, opting to wait until his next pit stop to take that fast repair. So we'll see if his pace picks back up once he takes that fast repair.
Off that fourth corner, Aiden Norman will make light work of the two-time champion. He gets into the 11th position. Cody Riggs, Ryan Pennell separated by 5 seconds. Perrin Huggins loves this racetrack. Toby Estes in the 8 car sitting in 4th. Still up 6 places from where he started, but Toby finds himself 14 seconds behind Seth Wansing in 3rd, who's only 1 second behind Briley Wright. Cody, you look at these two and you can see that the last couple of laps, Seth Wansing has just taken a big chunk out of Briley's advantage.
Yeah, and this is really important for Seth, to close this gap and get to Briley, because if, something does happen to our leader, Noah Belleville, this is ultimately the fight for the lead, and they know that. So, Seth is going to do everything he can to get to Briley and get by him here.
Seth gets too big of a bite out of the curbs. You can see it upset the balance of the race car. Briley now walking away with a couple of tenths out of turn number 2. And given that you really do have to take this track, one corner, one little bit at a time, losing a couple of tenths really is the work of 5 to 10 laps.
Yeah, and just to just something I noticed, just to tell you how the race is kind of mellowed out. Early on we saw a lot of people fighting with their race cars and getting loose off the corner. Everybody's kind of settled in now, and they're just running their own race. They're even having their own little conversation in the text chat somehow while they're driving. So that just goes to tell you how settled in everybody is now.
I don't think I want to see that text chat. Let's hope that I don't click on the screen by mistake. Dustin Painter, a quarter of a second behind the left-handed American pitcher for what? Who does he play for? The Fubon Guardians? Did I say that right the first time?
Yes, you got it right, Rick.
The Fubon Guardians. That's just cool. I mean, he's going to lose a position to Dustin Painter. That's not cool for him, but I mean, that's just cool. And again, as much as we make up a ton of stuff for fun, we're not making that up. This man is a left-handed pitcher out in Taiwan. He's an incredible guy, and he does a lot more besides just occasionally race in Thursday Night Thunder. Matty is incredibly involved in a lot of ARCS functions, Cody.
Yeah, he is. He's a huge asset to ARCS as a whole. He kind of does a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, and with his situation, being in Taiwan, being on that different time zone, it doesn't always allow him to run with us, but he's always willing to do race control and things like that. So he's always been a huge help to everybody in ARCS. Speaking of different time zones, what time is it there for him, Rick?
You know, I told myself to
time this
Google
guy's
this
racing?
before the race, and I didn't. Let me see. I'll just Google Taipei time. It is 9:30 in the morning. So over here, it is a 12-hour difference. All right, so it's 9:30 Eastern for us, and then for Maddie, it's 9:30 in the morning. So I don't know. That just blows my mind. To see where Thursday Night Thunder started, we got Elridge George racing from Nassau in the Bahamas. We got Matt Kent racing from Taiwan. That is pretty cool that we've got multiple nations represented, and this season, I think we've got 4 different nations represented with Juan Jimenez from the Dominican Republic. Kevin Feemster hasn't raced TNT, has he? Otherwise, we could add Canada to that list.
I believe this is his first season, Kevin Feemster.
Or not Feemster, I'm sorry. I'm thinking Brendan Forseal. Did I say Kevin Feemster? No, Kevin Feemster is American as apple pie.
That's true.
I don't know, is he? Where the hell is Kevin Feemster from?
I believe he's from around the North Carolina,
Of course he is.
area.
Of course he is. Because why not? In a NASCAR series, why wouldn't everybody be from North Carolina? That just makes all the sense in the world. Aiden Norman, Dustin Painter, Kevin Feemster. I think Jimmy Kerr's from North Carolina. Jeff No.
Yep, yes he is too.
I love it, man.
It's cool too, Rick. You know, you're talking about earlier how ARCS has expanded. I mean, if you go back to ARCS beginnings, you know, just a couple of guys, you know, meeting up on Xbox a couple weeks a night because they didn't have anything to do, and now we zoom out a little bit. Here we are, like you said, representing 3 or 4 different nations, running all these multiple series. It's really cool to see how the league has grown.
Thomas Andrews coming up behind Matt Kent. Half a second separates these 2 pilots. 107 laps into this race. Drivers have gone approximately 40 laps here on these tires, so expect them to go about another 15 to 20 before we see them peel in. Expect them to even stretch it a little bit further, Cody, because they didn't race as hard in this second stint. So they're going to be able to go a little bit longer and possibly only go 2 stops in this race.
Yeah, Noah's pace has really awarded him the ability to do whatever he wants here. I mean, he could come early and short pit it, or he could run long. I expect we'll see him go as long as he can here, just so will have as fresh a tire as possible until the end of the race. Because like you said, once they pit at lap 120, I mean, we've seen them run past lap 60, so we know they'll have enough fuel to get to the end.
One of those Bluegrass Bandits, Toby Estes from Greensburg, Kentucky. Out of that 4th corner, and the battle for second just got a lot tighter, and by tighter, I mean it completely flipped. Seth Wansing got around Briley right into turn number 3. Let's see how he did it. Textbook. Briley just opened up that bottom line. Seth took it, and I think Briley knew Seth was coming for a while. Looks like Briley tried to put the crossover on him, but Seth just keeps him at bay. And now the native of Kansas City is drag racing with Briley right out of turn 2. Cody, this is the battle for second.
Yeah, this is an incredible battle here. Unfortunately, I think they're going to come up on this lap car, and it's going to interfere with Briley's line. But yeah, these guys, like I said, they don't care that it's for second place. They're out here throwing haymakers, going back and forth, crossovers. This is fun stuff to watch.
I thought for a second, the way that the 29 entered the corner, I thought he clipped that turn 1 wall. For me, I remember racing this track on NASCAR 06, the Total Team Control game. That for me was just awesome, coming up from modifieds to trucks to the Busch Series, and then because I didn't know about the Milwaukee Mile until that game, you know, and every single time I clipped that inside wall, it sucked.
It's easy to do here, especially I can recall that game and remember running modifieds here. And, you know, I think going back to that, you games like that are really the inspiration that we've gotten for this league, right? I mean, we kind of follow a similar structure where we allow new guys to come up through the ranks and eventually reach our premier series like TNT and A squared.
Seth Wansing only has an advantage of 2 seconds on Briley Wright. Up 2/10 on Briley Wright. I knew what I meant. Thomas Andrews coming up on Matt Kent, half a second between them. And drivers about 10 laps, maybe a little bit more, away from what could be the final stint of green flag pit stops. If you've just tuned in, you have not missed a thing. 11 rounds will be completed by the time the checkered flag flies tonight. The Milwaukee Mile playing host to this 11th round of competition. You're watching Thomas Andrews chase down Matt Kent as Briley Wright gets loose out of the second corner. Loosey-goosey for the 2-9. And Seth Wansing is now on the top side. You're looking at the battle for second.
Meanwhile, while that battle's going on, Toby Estes has hit pit road, so I think he's trying to short pit and try and gain some of that time back on Noah Belleville because he was about to go a lap down. As you see Seth Wansing drag racing down the front straight on the outside. These guys are still side by side into one.
Briley right up the inside. Seth Wansing. We'll just watch the 29 sail away down the back straight in Milwaukee. 3/10 now the gap between them. Further on back, Thomas Andrews still chasing down Matt Kent as the pit stop cycle opens up for possibly the final time. But there, Cody, Toby Estes pitted on lap 113. If he goes to the end, he's going to need to stretch this 67 laps to the end.
Yeah, and again, I mean, he pitted from, I think, 4th and green flag pit stop, and he only fell to 11th. So the pace of these front 4, front 5 are setting, especially Noah Belleville, is just unreal.
Out of that second corner, Toby Estes runs in 11th. The last car 1 lap down. Matt Kent still watches Thomas Andrews fill the gap behind him while Briley Wright can no longer drive away from Seth Wansing. Wansing getting closer, and he's just turning the screw, maybe trying to force a mistake out of Briley coming into this final cycle.
Yeah, and they're really just trying to manage their tires here. I mean, I say that as Seth Wansing slides it off of turn 4. They want to get to about that lap 120 mark, and it's just going to be, who blinks first between Briley and Seth. As we now have only 3 cars on the lead lap.
That is just incredible. Jimmy Kerr goes a lap down. Noah Belleville leads by 13 seconds at the front of this race. We approach 61 to go next time by. A blink from Belleville, and maybe Noah's race is not just against Thursday Night Thunder competition. His race is now against his internet connection.
Yeah, and this is what I was talking about earlier. We've seen Noah Belleville. He's blinking a good bit now. We've seen him have internet problems before. So, I mean, like I said, Briley and Seth, they could potentially be battling for the lead here.
3/10 the gap between the Kentucky driver and the Missouri pilot. 120 laps underway. Another blink by Noah Belleville, and they're becoming more frequent. Cross your fingers, 41 fans. Thomas Andrews, 8/10 behind Matthew Kent. Toby Estes, the only driver to come down pit road early, and Noah Belleville is in. Here comes the race leader. Noah Belleville is in. Briley Wright has a long 12 seconds to make up to Belleville. 59 laps to go, Cody.
Yeah, and how about Dustin Painter in that 0-0? We saw him have some trouble early in the race, and now here he is back running P6. Could potentially be in the top 5 by the end of this thing.
Briley
Seth Wansing is in.
Seth Wansing is in pit road. Noah Belleville is on his way out. And the 2-time A-squared champion behind Jimmy Kerr, as Kerr now ascends to the 3rd position.
Oh, really sketchy there for Briley Wright off of turn 4. He's trying to get to pit road, but the 48 was wrecking in the grass. But thankfully, he gets down pit road without any issues. So, be interesting to see who got a better entry here between Briley and Seth.
These cats literally trying to ruin this entire race back here. Briley Wright gives up the lead to Noah Belleville, who reclaims top spot on lap 122. So Belleville now looking to go 59 laps on these tires. Jimmy Kerr in second. Seth Wansing in fourth. And Cody, again, this is just fantastic in the most amazing way. We've had a green flag pit stop cycle, and now there's only 7 cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, and there's your difference there between Briley Wright and Seth Wansing. Seth overdrives turn 3 just a little bit, and the car slides out from under him. But, you know, they pitted just like that. Seth, again, loose. He is trying. He's giving it everything he can to get by Briley because he knows, you know, that was potentially the last pit stop. If he wants to get out in front of Briley and set sail, he has to do it now.
The driver has to remember patience at this point, Cody. He's had trouble with patience before. There goes Tristan Catania, and it looks like he's been split as Catania goes off track. How did they not hit him?
Heads-up driving by everybody there to avoid the 48.
Oh.
Just speaks to the talent in this series.
Cousin Ryan getting around Tristan Catania. Watch this. Bold move by Ryan Pennell. One more look.
Oh, that was close.
Those smooth moves right there are going to earn Cousin Ryan the first Cole Trickle Move of the Race award.
Ice cream!
James Kerr is now on the pit road. Seth is hot on the 29. He, like I said before, he knows this is his opportunity. This is the freshest these tires will be for the rest of the race. He's got to make his move now.
Dustin Painter and Ryan Pennell swapping positions via way of Matthew Kent. Painter, all 4 tires trying to get to the inside of Kent. Briley Wright has a mirror full of Seth Wansing. Cody, they're going to do the toughest battle of the race right here.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, they're probably going to burn those tires up, and then they've still got, I mean, we've still got 50 laps to go in this race. So, yeah, Noah Belleville loves to see this, right? It pretty much just gives him the win. He's going to be able to just set sail out front while these guys battle back here behind him.
Briley will throw up sparks into the entrance of turn number 3. Further on back, Tom Sears in a battle of his own, the Massachusetts pilot, now coming up behind Jimmy Kerr III. This is for the 5th position. Cody, Sears has gotten back on top of the horse. He finds himself 5 places ahead of Aiden Norman in 11th. Now 4 places. Aiden Norman gets around Cousin Ryan and he makes it into 10th. Still more than 50 laps to go, and this is far from over, but you just wonder, where would this race be had Aiden Norman not wrecked 3 times?
Yeah, I think as Noah Belleville's blinking again, I think, you know, from practice and qualifying, and especially early in the race, it looked like the 62 was the only one that may have been able to match the 41's pace. And even then, when he was there behind him, you know, he wasn't closing the gap. Noah Belleville is just really putting on a masterclass tonight.
Kent goes green, 30.83 seconds, his fastest lap of the race. Ryan Pennell and Thomas Andrews separated by half a second. This to fight into the top 11. Briley Wright and Seth Wansing separated by 1 second. Noah Belleville continues to blink at the front. Belleville in the 41, 18 seconds ahead of Briley Wright. Seth Wansing within 1 second to Briley Wright, while Dustin Painter chases down Tommy Withers. This is for 7th, Cody.
Yeah, like I said earlier, you know, a really impressive bounce back from Dustin Painter in the 0-0. We saw him have that trouble early in the race, and here he is battling for P7 with Tommy Withers.
Pennell takes a stop. He is on his way out of pit road. So the native of Milwaukee, the Brewers fan, coming back out onto the racetrack in his Hooters Taurus. Kerr goes green, 30.81 seconds. JK3 running in position number 5, turns his personal best. Drivers now getting everything they can out of these tires, including Tom Sears, Cody. Tom Sears hasn't pitted since lap 66.
Yeah, I noticed he still had that left front damage, and I was wondering that myself. Really impressive that he's been able to maintain the position he's in on that old of tires. Unless he gets a caution, it's really not going to pay off for him, but at this point in the race, you know, he had to try something to make up some ground on Aiden.
Well, what I think is going to happen here is that he's only 6 seconds ahead of Aiden Norman. So my guess is that Tom is going to give it everything, knowing he's got fewer than 50 laps to run on these tires, while the majority of drivers are going to have to run 60 or more.
Yeah, I believe you're right, Rick. You know, like I said, he's probably beating himself up for that mistake he made earlier in the race. You know, he thought he had a really good opportunity tonight to make up some points on Aiden. And it's not over. I think he's actually coming to pit road here.
The two-time Thursday Night Thunder champion decides to bring the 213 Simware Supra down into the pits for tires, fuel, and maybe a cold, zesty beverage behind the wheel of his racing rig. Tom Sears comes to a halt, and he waits the long 15 seconds that it will take for 4 tires and sustenance for his 800 horsepower race car as Thomas Andrews gets into the wall. He's now 2 laps off the pace, and there are 3 cars on the lead lap, quickly approaching 45. No, 45. God, I can't math. 45 to go.
Yeah, and Briley has kind of stretched out his gap on Seth Wansing now. I'm not sure if Seth had some trouble, or if, you know, earlier when he first came out of the pit road, if he might have burned his tires up a little bit trying to, you know, make up some time on Briley. But he's loose out of turn 4. Yeah, Briley is kind of driving away from Seth now.
Elridge George now has Tristan Catania in his rearview mirror, trying to get into the top 15. The New Jersey pilot gets to the inside of the Bahamian. Tristan running 12th in points, 1 point behind his brother Richie, 17 points behind Tommy Withers. So he's got somewhat of a shot of cracking the top 10, but Tommy Withers running 7th in this race. Fans at home, don't forget about Swag Designs. Jim Blankenship and that whole talented crew making handcrafted trophies for Thursday Night Thunder and any event you can imagine. Check them out on Twitter at swag_designs. Jim Blankenship and crew making handcrafted trophies and race memorabilia. Check them out on Twitter at swag_designs. At the front, Noah Belleville, Cody, has a 19-second advantage as his internet blinks once more. 2 seconds between second and third, Briley Wright and Seth Wansing.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that internet connection for the 41, it's hanging on by a thread. Every time I go to him, he's blinking in and out. So, like I said, Briley Wright and Seth Wansing, they don't want to give up just yet, because you never know what can happen. And Toby, I mean, he's right there too. I mean, he's a lap down. That's mostly just because of the pace that the 41's setting.
Aiden Norman now chasing down the 31 of Matthew Kent. 2/10 between them. Norman getting ever closer to that top 5. Tom Sears running in the 13th position after he decided to pit on lap 131. Elridge George also coming down pit road. Still plenty of race to go, but Tom Sears only has 38 hard laps. No, 48 hard laps to put on those tires. I mean, it is high risk, high reward. You know, if a caution does come out, as Aiden Norman takes Matthew Kent for 8th, if a caution does come out, you know, Sears won't pit, but the drivers that do pit behind him will have tires that are far more fresh. If the caution doesn't come out, Tom has the most fresh tires for the remainder of the race, but he can't afford to make any mistakes, and he's got to drive every lap on the edge.
Yeah, and this strategy's actually worked for him before. I can't remember if it was last season or season 4, but I was at Las Vegas and I was leading the race, and it was kind of going how this race is going, where we had just 2 or 3 basic pit stops that everybody was making. But Tom, he went a little bit later on that last pit stop, and the difference was enough at the end of the race for him to run me down and actually pass me for the win. So a solid strategy that he's trying here.
It is a bold strategy, Cody, and we'll see if it works out for him. Aiden Norman in that 8th spot, now 7/10 behind Tommy Withers, and the Virginian has to play defense. Cody, if you're Tommy Withers, how do you defend this move from Norman?
I mean, you're just going to want to, I almost hate to say it, you're going to want to mirror drive him. You got to take his line away, whatever his preferred line is, just glue it to the bottom of the track, make him find another way around you, get him out of his comfort zone. It already looks like his car is a little bit loose under braking, so if you get him out of the line that he prefers, you have a greater chance of maintaining that position if you're Tommy Withers.
Withers only 3/10 ahead of the defending champion coming into that first corner. Nearing on 35 laps to go. Fans at home, if you just tuned in, we've gone caution-free for all 143 laps at the Milwaukee Mile. Pop in the chat who you're rooting for. Let's see who you want to win this race. 2/10 now between Aiden Norman and Tommy Withers. And it's just going to expand, Cody. Aiden Norman gets into 7th.
Yeah, and just kind of watching the leader here. As Seth Wansing is going into turn 1, Noah Belleville is coming off of turn 4. So still not that far-fetched of an idea. I mean, we still got, just under 40 laps to go here, that he could put the entire field a lap down.
I mean, we'll see. Challenge accepted, I suppose. Bluegrass Bandit number 8, Toby Estes, into the pits. And the Budweiser Monte Carlo will get tires, fuel, and anything else that he might need. He should be down and away. And he is. 14.58 seconds. That actually is the quickest 4-tire pit stop of the day for Toby Estes. Probably not a lot of refueling there. Toby most likely putting on fresh tires, so I'm interested to see what lap times this particular Bluegrass Bandit now puts on the clock.
Yeah, and I think that was, I guess we could call that unscheduled. I'm pretty sure he could have made it to the end unless he hadn't pitted yet. But maybe just trying to see if he can make these fresh tires count for this last 30-some-odd laps.
George goes green, 31.47, another personal best for the Bahamian. All eyes now on Toby Estes. We'll see just how quick he goes. Cody, I'm looking at some of these times, and these drivers are going slower than how some of us even drive on the freeway, for goodness sake. I mean, Seth Wansing down to 87 miles an hour into turn number 1. It really just goes to show just how flat this racetrack is and just how much precision it demands from you, because if you don't have speed, the only thing you can do is drive a smooth corner. And at 87 miles an hour, you have no room for mistakes.
Yeah, and something that the drivers are battling with here late in the race that they haven't had to battle with yet in practice or qualifying is this track is extremely rubbered up right now. And when you combine that with the fact that these cars get extremely tight on the long run when you wear the tires, they're just fighting to get the car turned through the center of the corner. And they really have to slow it down, like you said, all the way down to 87 miles an hour. So they're just really struggling for center turn right now.
Well, and they've got bottle caps for brakes here as Seth Wansing brings it up to 143, and once again slows his race car down to 87 miles an hour again. But then you have a driver like Noah Belleville who's showing, a top speed of 151 miles an hour. And Briley Wright's highest speed he's achieved in this race is 141. You look on down the list, Seth Wansing, 153, JK3, Jimmy Kerr's put in 157. Briley Wright has achieved the slowest top speed of all 19 drivers that started this race, 140 miles an hour. If anything, that tells me that Briley really isn't squeezing his right foot as hard as he can, and he's saving his stuff.
Yeah, and I was riding on board with Noah Belleville through 1 and 2 just then, and he only dipped down to a lowest speed of 97 miles per hour through turn 1 and 2, as opposed to, we were riding along with Seth Wansing. So he has got the center turn figured out. He is not struggling like the other guys are.
We apologize for the blinking. They're 140. That time it said, well, now his top speed is 223, but that's obviously the lag. But yeah, look at that, 100 miles an hour. Now let's look to Briley Wright. 90 in the corner. Seth Wansing once hit 86 miles an hour in turn 3. The internet starts to blink even harder. See if you can keep your eye on the hands there. Oh, and that's going to be just near impossible with Noah blinking the way he is. But look at the way he corrects that wheel. And again, watch the numbers go down. 145 into turn number 1. Look at that, 107, 100, 96 miles an hour. He's 10 miles an hour faster through the center of the corner than Seth Wansing.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, like I said, he's figured out a certain line, how hard to get on the brakes, when to get back into the throttle so that you don't push out towards the wall. I mean, he's got it down to a science.
Wansing gingerly out of the second corner. Listen to Belleville. Belleville just so much harder on the throttle. And just with so much more control. You can see the way he's just correcting the oversteer by just flicking it to the right. And it's marvelous what he's done here today. It'll be 25 laps to go, I think, this time or next time by. He's now going to put Tommy Withers a second lap down. Not only are there 3 cars left on the lead lap, there are, what is it?
Yeah, I believe there's only 6 cars 1 lap down now, or from 4th to 6th are the only cars 1 lap down now. Everybody else is 2 or more.
Yeah, it's it's really, really impressive. It's incredibly impressive. Briley Wright has a 1.8 second gap back to Seth Wansing as Kevin Feemster greets the turn 2 wall again. Toby Estes will open up the inside of Thomas Andrews, and he will get down to the left-hand side, and he will take Thomas Andrews for the 8th position, 7th position, 9th. I have no idea what I'm looking at here. Toby Estes is now in 9th. Tom Sears now side by side with Cody Briggs.
Something else is worth noting, I think, Rick, is Aiden Norman. We watched him wreck 3 times at the beginning of this race. He wrecked 3 times, and he is back up to 6th place now. So he's the last car, only 1 lap down.
Talk about a bounce back. And he didn't hit anything for 2 of those times, I think. I think the 3rd one is when he really caught some damage, and luckily, I think he also got very fortunate as well, because Aiden didn't have that heavy crash up until the end of a green flag stint. So he had a lot less miles to go with damage than, say, Tom Sears. That could be the big difference in their 6th position difference at the moment. Aiden Norman now reeling in Dustin Painter. He's within 2 seconds to the top 5, and he's 9 seconds behind Jimmy Kerr. I know there's 23 laps to go. If Norman puts himself in a position for the lucky dog, a late race caution would put Norman and Belleville back in contention for a fight to the end. Now, again, anything's possible. Noah Belleville with a 23-second lead on Seth Wansing, who's just crossed the start-finish line. Race leader Noah Belleville is now out of turn number 4. There's 22 laps to go in round 11, Cody.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see what happens here if Noah Belleville catches Aiden Norman before the end of this race, because Aiden's not going to want to give it up because he wants to stay 1 lap down. If he catches Dustin Painter and James Curry, like you said, he could be in the position for the lucky dog. So I'd be interested to see what will happen if the 41 does catch the 62.
V8 has caught the 31. Toby Estes comes to the inside of Matthew Kent. Kent can't stake the outside line and he will watch car number 8 go into position number 8. Toby Estes up 2 places from where he started. Not quite the performance from winning at Rockingham a few weeks ago, but still a strong performance from him, and I'm glad to see the consistency back in that particular Bluegrass Bandit. Dustin Painter in the 5th spot, 7 seconds away from 4th.
Yeah, and I'm still not sure what kind of strategy Toby was going for there, pitting, so late in that run, but I think we'll see a pretty big payoff here with his difference in tires. I know he'll probably definitely catch the 6 of Tommy Withers.
There is the U.S. Army Camry of Tommy Withers, 7/10 ahead of Toby Estes. It's 2-0 to go, and then 1-9 at the line. Seth Wansing enters turn number 1. Noah Belleville gives us 19 laps to go at the Milwaukee Mile. Tommy Withers just ahead of Toby Estes. A quarter of a second is what separates them, and it'll be a drag race into 3, Cody.
Yeah, and I'm just riding along here with Bradley Wright. He's got a couple lap cars in front of him. One of them, Ryan Pinnell. The other, Jimmy Kerr. So, again, Bradley, I mean, he's 21 seconds behind Noah Belleville, but we can't really, he's put on a brilliant performance tonight, running P2.
It goes Ford, Chevy, your top 3. Noah Belleville leading the race in the 41 Fusion. Bradley Wright in the 2.9 Monte Carlo SS sits in 2nd, and Seth Wansing in his Chevy Monte Carlo rolls in 3rd. Jimmy Kerr in 4th. North Carolina's Dustin Painter serving the 5th position.
Yeah, the 62 of Aiden Norman hasn't really been able to gain any ground on the 00 here in the last few laps, at least from what I've seen. So it looks like Dustin Painter may have secured a top 5 as long as he rides smooth out for the rest of this race. And after his troubles early on, I think he'll be pretty satisfied with that.
Aiden Norman 1 3/4 seconds ahead of Toby Estes. Tommy Withers 1 second adrift of the Kentucky pilot, while Tom Sears reels in Kevin Feemster, the pilot of the number 1 Pennzoil Chevy. Watching the other Dayglow car in this race, Tom Sears reel him in for 11th, and at this point I think it's just damage control for Sears. But again, he did wait until lap 131. There's still 16 laps to go, so Tom Sears could at least get a few more points in tonight's round, but really a valiant effort by Sears. It's certainly not over yet. Don't let me paint that picture. Kevin Feemster gives it a wiggle, but he tried something different.
Yeah, and the 41 has caught the 62, and the 8 is right behind him on fresher tires, so this will be interesting to see what happens here.
Toby Estes looking to get one of those 2 laps back. Noah Belleville running down Aiden Norman, and how will the defending champion make way for the rookie? Handsomely. The big-ass 62 makes all the room for the 41 Aflac Dodge, and the leader now puts, Norman another lap down. Cody, you just had to hold your breath because you saw the moment unfolding. How about that for an exercise in patience? We really just avoided a big crash there.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Noah Belleville's probably been the calmest of any of these drivers throughout this whole race, but I know his heart rate spiked for a minute there.
That's insane. 13 lucky laps left. Noah Belleville leads Bradley Wright by 21 seconds. Toby Estes now to the inside of Aiden Norman. This is the battle for 6th. Estes gives it a full send in car number 8. He will cut off the 62 Dodge Charger. Estes puts his Budweiser machine into 6th. Cody Riggs loose off of that 4th corner, and he will try to get his groove back, although he is only 4 seconds behind Tom Sears, as Sears now moves to the inside of Feimster, gives it a big move down the left-hand side of that one car. And the 14 will easily slide into the 11th position. Dustin Painter 6.5 seconds off of Jimmy Kerr. Toby Estes 3.5 seconds. No, I'm sorry. 7 tenths. Now 6 tenths.
Yeah, I believe he may be able to get to Dustin Painter. I don't know if he'll be able to get around him, but he'll be right there at the end of this thing.
Elrich George taking one last pit stop here with 10 laps to go. Feimster watching Sears sail off into the distance as Kevin Feimster gives it a four-wheel drift out of turn number 4, right ahead of the leader, in front of traffic down the front straight at Milwaukee, and the driver of the number 1 Pennzoil Chevy gets it moving again under his own power. And how about that for just a really clenching moment there? Have another look at Feim.
Yeah, I'll tell you, these lap cars are definitely giving Noah Belleville some scares here late in the going.
Oh my gosh, Belleville blinking right ahead of Feimster, and the number 1 car gets moving once again. That's going to put Feimster outside of the top dozen.
And there goes Toby Estes to the inside of the leader. He's going to get that lap back, and now he's got a chance to run down the double zero of Dustin Painter for a top 5.
3 seconds between Estes and Painter. Noah Belleville has nobody to beat but himself. He's got a 21-second gap back to Briley Wright. Aiden Norman, all he's got to gain is, well, a lap back, and Toby Estes 1 second ahead of that 6-2 Dodge. Caution free for 172 laps so far. Briley Wright 3 seconds ahead of Seth Wansing. Jimmy Kerr 30 seconds behind Seth Wansing. 3 cars remain on the lead lap. It has been the Noah Belleville show since the green flag. Points leader Aiden Norman wrecking 3 times in today's race. Tom Sears with an incredible chance to recuperate championship points with 5 races to go after tonight. Now finds himself 4 positions away from Aiden Norman. And still drivers racing hard for position. Noah Belleville trying to put Tom Sears a 3rd lap down, and he will.
Yeah, and that's how you win championships in this series, Rick, is even on nights when you have a bad race, you don't let your head get out of the race. It was Aiden Norman's in the wall there in the background, but you don't let your head get out of the race. You stay in it and, you know, just do the best damage control you possibly can do.
In 7th now, 2 seconds ahead of Tommy Withers, but see if there's any damage on the right-hand side. A couple of scrapes, he'll be fine. Definitely not as bad as it was the first couple of times he slammed that wall. Here he goes, Aiden Norman now to the inside of Tom Sears, and 1 2-time champion possibly looking at another. Look at the hands in the 6-2, just trying to keep that thing under control. And Norman goes to the inside of Tom Sears. This isn't for position. Norman in 7th, Sears in 11th. Three seconds now the gap as the final green flag stint comes to a hefty close. Toby Estes 1.7 seconds ahead of Aiden Norman. Estes behind the race leader. And really looking at the roster tonight, Cody, this is not the race I expected. And then I noticed that Noah Belleville was there, and even then I expected a close race. But if I'm correct, he won practice, he won qualifying. And here he is, fewer than 3 miles away from winning in his first TNT start this season.
Yeah, he'll get the clean sweep tonight if he wins the race. He had the fastest lap in practice, was on pole by a pretty good margin. So just can't say enough about, what he's done tonight. Just a heck of a race.
2 miles to go for the young Noah Belleville. Toby Estes in the 6th position, watching the leader put on, as you called it, Cody, a master class. Seth Wansing 2 1/3 seconds behind Briley Wright as the 2-9 just tries to solidify that silver medal position. Tommy Withers 2 seconds behind Aiden Norman as the the one-time champion, going for 2 this season. Wrecked 3 times in today's race. White flag is now in the air, so it doesn't matter what happens as long as Noah Belleville doesn't crash himself. This race will go to him in what I think is the most dominant show this season. 23 seconds the gap between Belleville and Wright. Through turns 3 and 4, the kid does it again. Noah Belleville off the 4th corner will win round 11 at the Milwaukee Mile despite that internet connection. And there is 2nd place, Briley Wright, 23 seconds adrift of the race leader. Just a dominant performance tonight for Noah Belleville, Cody.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it can't be overshadowed. Briley Wright's performance tonight, the P2 is an incredible run tonight for him. As Tristan Catania cleans out the tires at the end of pit road and comes down the track.
Like we know that only he does.
Shout out to Seth Wansing also. I mean, I know he wanted a little bit more. He's probably hoping for a little bit more out of that battle with Briley, but to bring it home P3 and still be on the lead lap, that's saying something tonight.
Belleville will try to do some donuts if he can keep that car from blinking here for 30 seconds, but he's going to put on a smoke show. He's going to burn the house down in celebration. The 41 car collides with Briley Wright on the front straight. And we're going to have our top 3 in the podium in just a moment, folks. Noah Belleville, Briley Wright, Seth Wansing, your podium in round 11. On the podium now with our top 3. Shout out Southern Broadcast Racing Network for rating here at the end. Shout out to everybody who's watching. T. Lockhart Gramacini cheering for Noah Belleville winning this race and putting an unbelievable performance on the rest of the field. Let's start with our our bronze medalist, Seth Wansing, in the number 9 Midwest Barbecue Chevrolet. Seth, you got a 3rd place finish tonight. Just a great performance, and some tough battling with Briley too.
Yeah, I had lots of fun. Shout out to Moldy. Or Noah was on the broadcast. I guess I should invest in a controller or something. I don't know.
Seth, it was a pretty tough battle with Briley there at the end. Looking at next week, we're going to take it to Darlington. You're 3rd in the points now. You are 4 points behind Tom Sears in the fight for 2nd.
Yeah, just keep on chipping away at it. Had a lot of fun racing Briley. Had a lot of fun racing everybody. TNT is always a lot of fun to run. Thanks to to everybody at ARC for putting it on. Um, Thank you to you and Cody for broadcasting, as always. And yeah, we'll go to Darlington next week and keep chugging away at the points. Got a long gap to go to Aiden, but glad to move back up into the top three and try to get some wins rolling. And second and third are starting to become um, pretty sucky. But we'll keep on trugging on. Thanks to Midwest Barbecue and 213 Somewhere. You know, coming on board. Maybe they can pay me to buy a controller or whatever that 41 car has. My lord, but yeah, fun night.
Briley Wright in the second position tonight. Briley, you representing for the Bluegrass Bandits, and you held off Seth Wansing bravely tonight. What was the secret in your 2.9 car?
Just consistency, man. That was the biggest thing that I figured out through this race. About halfway through, I finally realized like you can just constantly stay committing and stay committed to your marks. You'd kind of have it made, and you could just outrun them. I know at the end I'd done a pretty decent job at it, and I think I had Seth by 2.5 seconds or something like that. But yeah, just consistency and hitting your marks. I noticed like if you mess up one turn, it would cost you so much time, and I think that's how Noah was able to just to stay out front. He just stayed consistent the whole night and didn't make any mistakes.
It worked for the 41, and now next week we take it to Darlington. Can you do one better than second?
I sure hope so. That's one of my favorite tracks, and we've been nailing off these top threes and second place finishes, and maybe we can get another number one at Darlington.
Enjoy it. We'll see you in a week's time. The Swag Designs number 1 position goes to Noah Belleville tonight, driver of the number 41 Ford Fusion. Fans at home, if you want your own handcrafted trophies, just like the one you're going to see for Thursday Night Thunder in Season 6, check out the folks over at Swag Designs on Twitter. That's swag_designs. Shout out Jim Blankenship and tell them that TNT sent you handcrafted trophies for you and your events. Noah Belleville wins this race tonight. Cody, you're with our race winner.
Noah, you put on an absolute masterclass tonight, man. We were watching you there through the race, and it just seemed like you were able to rotate the middle of the corner so much better than everybody else, as much as maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 miles an hour faster through the center of the corner. Talk us through your race and how you were able to manage the tires and keep the pace that you had tonight.
Yeah. First off, apologies for the voice. I've been sick the past few days, but I found a pretty good line that I could use in 1 and 2 where I could like kind of get my left sides on the rumble strip and use it to kind of wrap my car around the corner, and that helped me get rotated like you were saying and get the drive off. And in 3 and 4, if you gave up some time going into the corner, you could rotate it a lot easier and get off. And I just was able to consistently hit that, like Briley was saying. And I don't know, this track just kind of suits what I normally like. You know, it's slick, loose. You really got to throttle control off the corner, and it was uh it really suited my driving style, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I was just able to log laps. Aiden was keeping up with me in the beginning, and I was kind of hoping he'd stay with me because be able to put on a show, but he spun out, and that kind of sucks for him. But congrats to Briley on the P2, another 1-2 for Bandit Racing. We're on fire right now, and we're racking up the win totals for the season, and we're kicking butt.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would argue with you, Noah, if you said that Bandit Racing was one of the hottest teams in ARCS, if not the hottest team in ARCS right now. So, anybody you want to shout out before we let you go?
Yeah, thanks for broadcasting as always, and shout out to everyone watching and everyone who puts on the races. And lap cars did a pretty good job getting out of the way. You know, I haven't raced TNT in a while, but it was nice to come back and experience that same level of respect from the drivers, and just good to be back.
Absolutely, man. Well, congratulations again on a dominant win, and I'll throw it back to you, Rick.
Fans at home, that puts a cap on round number 11 in the Thursday Night Thunder, book, chapter 11, if you will. Next week, if you don't know by now, Darlington. It's always something. I think it goes without description, Cody. I'm going to be thrilled to see what happens in round number 12. Aiden Norman will go into that race with a 51-point lead. With 5 races remaining, and at this point, it really is his championship to lose. But, I mean, you look at guys like Seth Wanting, who are now on the podium. There's a tie for 4th between Dustin Painter and Thomas Andrews. Jeff Noe is only 3 points away from them. Briley Wright and Ryan Pennell are tied for 7th. Now, this is all unofficial, of course, but, I mean, with 5 races to go, just because there's a gap at the top doesn't mean that there's not a great fight for the rest of the season, and I'm really excited to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And if the people at home watching tonight thought that we saw a driver's track race tonight, they're in for another one next week. Darlington is one of those tracks where, yeah, for most of the race, you're going to see drivers more concerned about hitting their marks and just hitting consistent laps than they will be focused on, passing other drivers. So, a potential again there for more mistakes next week, potential for Tom Sears to close the gap a little bit more on Aiden Norman in the lead. And it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that race.
Cody, thanks so much for tagging along, man. I really, really appreciate it. It's been a while since we had either you or cousin Ryan in the booth, man. So it's always a thrill, and I mean, I'll make you a key, man. You can come in anytime. Thank you so much, my friend. Send my love to the Pennell family, and we will talk to you soon.
Absolutely, Rick. I appreciate it, man.
Fans at home, we will see you in a week's time right here on Rick James TV. Shout out to everybody at iRock TV, Swag Designs and Drip Diecasts and Collectibles. Until that next race, please stay safe. Do take care of each other, and we will see you